Okay, so we have the basic template of our report completed. And so now it's time to add our data table of the data set that you've selected. So this is in Microsoft Word. So you notice that the options across the top are different. And this configuration I have present may be different than what you're looking at. So in case what you have looks different, you might not have these two vertical toolbars or bars here on the left-hand side. So first, let me show you how to get those and see them. So the first is you want to go under the View menu, and right here under Show, you want to turn on the navigation pane. So left-click on that, and you should see the navigation pane or navigation bar here on the far left side. And we're going to be working with text styles in this report. So to get those to show up, click on the Home menu. And then here in the paragraph subsection, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, it looks like a square with an arrow going down and to the right. Oh, sorry. And then there's one next to it called Styles that has a similar symbol, a square with a down arrow going down and to the right. So left click on Styles, sorry, not paragraph, but Styles, click that. And it should make this bar show up here on the left-hand side. This is your style bar, and this is your navigation bar. So we'll be working with styles, and I'm going to show you, kind of the increased power of this navigation part here on the left. All right, so here's our starting point. We're on the very top of our cover page, and we want to add our data table. Now, the data table is in the results section. So if you look over here on the left-hand side at the navigation pane, if you just left-click on results, it'll take you right to that section in your report. True, you could scroll up, you could scroll down until you get to it. That's one way to do it. But if you use some of the style functionality in Microsoft Word, then you can just click on these here in the navigation pane, and you can get right to those sections really quick. Okay, so now that we are in the results section of the report, this is where we want to put a data table. Now, this data table that I have here is just an example. The data set that I have is relevant to roller coasters, and this has to do with cheese consumption and bed sheet suffocations. But what we're going to be doing is making something that is formatted very much the same as this. So the top row of this data table has our random variable names, and some of these random variables have units. So cheese consumption is in tons, and bed sheet suffocation is a count. So this would be like the number of people that died due to bed sheet suffocations in the year 2000. And we have this data table added, and down below it, we have a caption. So we're going to be adding a table and creating a caption. And in order to kind of format, excuse me, all of this together, we're actually going to be creating a larger table that all of this is going to go into. And so the larger table is a 1-column and 2-row table, and we'll eventually make the border blank or white. And so you won't see this dashed line, it'll just disappear. But what you'll have is a way to kind of keep the table and the caption together at all times without having to worry about it. So let's go about setting this up, and I'll kind of teach you some other things here as we go along. Now, you'll notice that, right here where my cursor is, if I select this, Roman numeral 3 results, it's showing that the heading 1 style was applied to this. If I click down below, you'll notice that this line below the results line is what's called body 1. So this is heading 1, and this is body 1. And you'll notice over here on the left, definitions also has a heading of 1. But this word line of regression, this has a heading level 2. And you can see that that is nested. Line of regression is nested under definitions. And then for line of regression, I have an equation for that. I have an example of it, and I have functions on the calculator for it. And this is a heading 3 style. So we've got these different heading levels. Let me make that just a little bit bigger. We have these different heading levels, and that kind of nests the contents of your Word document kind of inside each other. So that allows us to kind of see our entire report kind of like an outline. All right, and there's some strengths to doing this that we'll get to later. Okay, but the reason why that was relevant is because now we're going to add a data table. And this data table, we're going to label this with a heading of 2 and call this data table. And when we hit enter and go to the next line, it's now giving this next line a style of body 2, which sits right underneath this heading 2. So I'm going to hit enter a few times just to make sure that we've got some space here with this body 2 styling underneath this heading 2 style. All right, so I'm just going to click here at this second line below this data table that we just made. And let's insert this big table with 1 column and 2 rows. So to do that, just go to the insert menu and right here under table, left click the caret. And, if we select to the right, that gives us more columns. If we select going down, that gives us more rows. And so all we need right now is 1 column and 2 rows. So I'm just going to go down and click. And so that creates a table with 1 column and 1, 2 rows. All right, so in this top cell, in this new table that we made, I'm going to construct this data table, except mine is relevant to roller coasters. And for my roller coasters, I have 9 random variables. So I'm going to need 9 columns. And I don't have enough room to put all my data, so I'm only going to put a couple of lines of data. So I only need 4 rows. So I'm going to insert a table into this table. So right now, this top cell is, I've got the cursor in the top cell. So I'm going to hit insert table, and I'm going to go over 9 and come down 4. Now you'll probably come down 4 as well, but the columns that you have in your data, you might have less, you could have more, but if you have less, then you'll have to go less than me. But I've got 9, so I've got a 9 by 4 table, 9 columns, 4 rows. So I'm going to left click on that. All right, so now I've got this table inside of this outer one. And now I'm going to go ahead and type my random variables across the top. So I've got name, part, speed, and I'm going to insert units. Oh, I'm going to wait. Let's see here. Speed, height, drop, length, duration, and inversions. Okay. So these are the random variables. Now I'm going to add 2 rows of some sample data, okay, for each of these columns, each of these random variables. So for the name, I've got a ride called Millennium Horse, and that is in Cedar Point. The track is made of steel. Let's see, the speed is 93, the height is 310, the drop is 300, the length is 65, 95, the duration is 165, and the inversions is 0. All right, let me put one more row of data. So I've got a ride called the Rattler, and this is from Six Flags Fiesta in Texas. This is made of wood, and 73, 79.5. By the way, I'm hitting tab to go to the next cell over to the right. 166.5, 5,080, 146, and 0. Okay, so we've got 2 rows of data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 periods, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, across this row. And what that indicates is that there's more data that keeps going down. In my data set, I've got more than 2 records. I've got more that just keeps going. So that's what those 3 dots mean. Okay. So something else to add here is we're missing units. So speed, is that in kilometers per hour? Is that meters per second? Or is that miles per hour? So in this case, I think it's miles per hour. And what you've got to be careful with in Microsoft Word is that if you just hit enter, oh, so that worked. So you can hit enter to go to the next line, and then we can put miles per hour, like that. And then I can go to height, hit enter, and then in parentheses, I can put feet. And then I can go to drop, hit enter, and then I can put feet. For length, I can hit enter. That's also in feet. Duration, I can hit enter. I put seconds. All right. And inversions, so the data is either going to be a 0 or a 1. So it's not really indicative of units. And I'll kind of get to that here in a second. All right. So we're getting kind of close to being done with formatting this table. Let's just make these headings, these random variables, stand out a little bit more. So what we'll do is we'll select them and we'll make them bold. So I'm going to come over here to the home menu and click this little B in this font section, and that'll make that all bold. And for these columns that have numbers in them, I'm going to click and drag across these columns and these rows, and I'm going to center justify them. So here under paragraph, this is in the home tab, I can click on this icon, which is kind of showing sentences centered in the middle, justified in the middle. So if I click that, that'll center everything. Anything that's got text in it, it kind of works better to maybe left justify. So that's why I didn't center justify them. Okay. So this data table looks pretty good. So now what we need is we need a caption down below it to explain what it is that we're looking at. So we're going to reference this for now as table A. And table A is composed of random variables connected to roller coaster design parameters in the data file. All right. Now, what you can add in the caption is maybe giving a little bit of explanation about what it is that we're looking at. So one of the explanations we can add here is that like if inversion is equal to 0, then that means a 360-degree inversion. Let's see, how do I want to word that? Inversion does not exist. Okay, and then hit enter. I can say if inversion is 1, a 360-degree inversion does exist. All right. And that's all you want to do. This caption should only describe what this is. Shouldn't be long and wordy. It should be very simple and to the point. All right, so that concludes setting up the table.